Thank you, and thanks everybody for being here. I'm executive director of Hasbara Fellowships, and we call these meetings always not just in wartime here, just to really usually in service of our work, which is uh, fighting for Israel on college campuses. And I'm proud to say that MK Illouz was an alum of Hasbara from when he was on campus at McGill, and for those that don't know him, I want to just introduce you, MK Illouz, Dan. You made Aliyah from Montreal. You understand our community back here in North America very well, and you understand that we have a role to play. Everybody on this call has a role to play in telling Israel's story to the world. You understand that better than most. You started a caucus to support Jewish students around the world in the Knesset. I think you're the perfect person to brief us here on what is going on. And so, without further ado, I'll turn it over to you, MK Illouz. Please tell us where you are and what you need to know, what we need to know.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you to all the organizations that helped bring this together. This is an important time in Jewish history. And I want to just take a step back before we actually speak about what we're dealing with right now. First of all, I want to say sorry for being a few minutes late. As it was said, we were in a bomb shelter just a few minutes ago. Almost all of Israel was in shelters and we came back out right on time. I guess God really wanted me to be here for the briefing, and so we got out right on time in order for us to start this briefing. But as I said, I want to take a step back and remember how this all started, not far back, but October 7th. Because I've been speaking many times to communities since October 7th. I think I've spoken to many of the people that are here on the call, whether it's through Zooms or even in person in communities that I visited throughout North America and Europe. And one of the things that I kept on saying is that after the horrors that we've seen on October 7th, after we've seen babies burnt alive, women raped and paraded on the streets of Gaza, the elderly held hostage and then murdered while being hostage, and so many other horrors that we've seen. And after we've seen this face of evil, then we understood in Israel that we had only one choice, and that choice was to defeat this evil. And I would usually comment, I'm quoting myself, which is weird, but I would usually comment and speak about the fact that this isn't just for a strategic reason, which makes sense on a strategic level. When you see this type of evil, you have to remove it so that it doesn't encourage more evil, or that it doesn't embolden other evil groups to do the same things. But there was also something much deeper when it came to October 7th and our need to respond forcefully and to bring total victory. And the reason goes to the very core of what Zionism is. Zionism started as a movement where many different people chose to emphasize different aspects of what Zionism is. There was socialist Zionists, there were revisionist Zionists, religious Zionists, political Zionists. There were different streams of Zionism, but there's one thing that united every single Zionist movement. And when you actually read the writings of all the Zionist leaders from Jabotinsky to Ben Gurion to Rav Kook and to Herzl and to all of the different Zionist writers, they all speak about the need to create a place where Jews could be safe. And on top of that basis, they all build their different ideologies. Religious Zionism with the messianic view of coming back to Israel after 2,000 years, which is something I really identify with. Revisionist Zionism with its ideology, another movement I really identify with. Uh, Everyone with its own ideology, but based on the same foundation. And after the Holocaust, when we said never again, when we shouted never again all around the world, then the greatest material proof that we meant never again was the creation of the state of Israel and then the building of the IDF, of the Israeli army that would ensure that it would never happen again. And then on October 7th, it happened. It happened again for one day. It's not like the Holocaust where that day of October 7th happened over and over and over again. But it happened for one day, and we got a taste of what the Holocaust was in modern history. And I want to say that on that day, we understood that we needed to bring total victory against Hamas, but we also needed to prove that when we said never again, we meant it. So the first test was in Gaza in order to ensure that we defeated Hamas. And it's a war that's still going on. It's a difficult war. And by the way, I'm going to open up for questions, and most of it will be questions and answers. I'll speak quite briefly at the beginning, and so feel free to write questions in the chat. But if you want to ask questions about Gaza afterwards, we can answer those also. But the war is still going on, but it's going on very successfully. And it's very clear that Hamas today is not what Hamas was before October 7th, and that we're on the route to bringing total victory. It's not there yet, but we're on the route. But the really big question when it comes to never again was, will we find the courage to deal with the bigger threat? The bigger threat being Iran. And Iran being a big threat is for two reasons. First of all, because of their nuclear ambitions. And second of all, because in the last years, they've started also amassing many thousands of missiles, which are targeting Israel. And all of this is happening while they are declaring very openly that they want to destroy Israel, putting up a clock in the middle of Tehran saying one Israel, a countdown clock, one Israel will be destroyed. And all of these things happening while they're developing nuclear weapons. And we know for a fact that since October 7th, they've started progressing towards this goal of a nuclear weapon. First of all, slowly, but afterwards, when we defeated also Hezbollah in the north, they've started running and sprinting to a nuclear weapon. And so we had to show history that when we said never again, we meant it. And that's exactly what Israel did this past week. We put a very clear red line saying that we will not allow our enemies to amass weapons with the intent of destroying us and wait for them to push the button before we will respond, because that's insane and that's not something that we're able to do. We will respond. We will ensure that they never get to these weapons, to this level of weaponry, which becomes an existential threat to us. Now, the IDF has been doing absolutely incredible in the last few days. It's true in the offense and in the defense. We've had casualties in Israel, and obviously, where people were every single casualty is very heartbreaking. But when you compare that to the estimates that was before, then you can see that even on the home front, we're doing quite well. And on the offensive, then we've been doing incredibly well. Basically, the skies of Iran have become owned by the Israeli Air Force more than anything else. And we fly freely there, accomplishing basically everything that we need to do. I want to also tell you that if we look back a few years back at Iran's great plan, its great plan was to actually build proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, some also in Iraq, to have them there in order to ensure that we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing right now, which is attacking Iran's nuclear weapons program and also its missiles program, which is another existential threat, which is less talked about internationally. But imagine now it has a few missiles. If it has hundreds of thousands of missiles the way that it has right now attacking Israel, it would be just as existential of a threat as nuclear weapons. And so those are the two threats that we're dealing with. Now, its grand plan was always to have those proxies there in order to ensure that we wouldn't be able to attack it, and then it would be able to create all of these existential threats without ever being attacked. This blew up in their faces on October 7th. Now, October 7th was a very tragic day. There's no way justifying it or seeing a silver lining in that. It was a horrible, horrible day. But on that day, actually, Iran's plan started crumbling because we started defeating Hamas, and Hamas is not what it was before. We then defeated Hezbollah in the most decisive and assertive way that one could have thought. And Hezbollah is not a threat anymore. Now, I try to imagine a dystopia where history would have taken a different turn, and I see that Iran's plan all along was that if we attacked them, then Hezbollah would send missiles at us, Hamas would send missiles at us, Iran would also send its missiles at us, and that would be an existential threat in its own. But that's not happening right now because Hamas is not on the chessboard anymore. Again, it is, but not the way it used to be. Hezbollah isn't even on the chessboard anymore. And so it's only Iran, which is a very big challenge. A challenge, by the way, that we're doing well with, but which is still a challenge. We're in the start of this war, not in the end and not in the middle. We're in the start of this war. And so we're dealing with Iran, but we don't have all of these other proxies anymore. The other side of the dystopia would be what if October 7th would have happened after Iran had a nuclear weapon? Then that would have also been something really insane because Iran would have probably told us if you respond to October 7th, then we'll use our nukes on you, which would have made our actions very limited as to what we're able to do. And that's something really insane to think about. Something like October 7th happening and someone threatening us that if we respond, then they'll use a weapon of mass destruction against us is something that would be very obviously problematic to us. And so you can see that history played its way the way it played its way, and that right now we have a real opportunity to deal with this threat, to deal with it very decisively, and to deal with it once and forever. Now, this isn't just an issue for Israel. Israel is on the front line, but it's very clear that radical Islam is not just our enemy, and that Iran is not just the enemy of Israel. Iran's regime is the enemy of all of the free world and also of many Arab countries that surround it. And right now we're fighting the fight, but even those countries that condemned us in the last few days are very happy that we're fighting this fight. And they might need to condemn us as statements, but they're very happy that we're fighting this fight. And the other people that are happy that we're fighting this fight are actually the people of Iran, because the people of Iran themselves are under this tyrannic rule from the mullahs, and they don't act. I mean, Iran is one of the most beautiful civilizations of history. You can see incredible poetry there from the Middle Ages, science, universities. Iran was one of Israel's best friends before the Islamic Revolution. And there is potential there for real change. Now, it's not a change that Israel can bring from the top down, but it is an opportunity for the Iranian people to also rise up and to take their fate in their own hands. And I hope they do that. Again, I don't think it's right for Israel to be the one doing it, but I think it is a scenario where there is a real opportunity to see something, and then the opportunities become endless. I mean, when you look at Israel's place right now and where we were on the morning of October 7th, it's mind-boggling how far we've gone. From the low of the lows, we're now in a place where a ton of opportunities, where I'm not even afraid of saying that I hope that one day Iran joins the Abraham Accords. Obviously not of this regime, but another regime.
Atrocity.
Another regime that would come and change this current regime, or even Lebanon right now. There's even it's things that would have been completely insane to think of, and I'm very confident that also the Saudis and others that right now are sometimes playing tough, but when they see the strength that Israel is showing, this strength is exactly the reason. Sorry, this strength is
Thank you, Brian.
exactly the reason why they.
It's over, okay? Okay, bye.
Sorry, people, just keep yourselves on mute.
Yeah, not sure what happened there with the muting. We'll go ahead,
So
MK.
if you see this strength is exactly what the Saudis want, and that's exactly what brought us to the first Abraham Accords. And I have to say, we're very grateful for the American support. There was a lot of talk in the past few weeks about how America and Israel are doing. Are we having a fight, or are we doing well? It's been proven, I think, in the last few days that it was all a very nice show made in order for our enemies to put their guards down, and it worked perfectly. And so we're right now in a very historic moment where the potential is completely, it's endless. Thinking of Israel without all of those threats, without Hamas, without Hezbollah, without Iran as a threat, uh, and seeing how Israel grew and performed when all of these threats were around, and how it could grow and perform without all of these threats, it makes me think that Israel, really, the sky is the limit to where Israel could go. So I promised that we'd open up for questions. So do you want to monitor the questions?
Yes, yes, and we thank you just for those words and giving us an overall uh, background here and overall briefing, Dan. And yes, I think we will turn it over to questions. I've done my best here to compile questions I've been getting here in the chat and offline, and a few of my own. So if it's okay with you, I'll ask a few to summarize what's on people's minds, and then we'll try to open it up as well. I think and that's a great picture you painted for us there of kind of all the regional threats. I think a lot of people, first of all, want to know what's the feeling on the ground now. I think we've um, in Israel, we've seen we know the news. We saw hits in Bat Yam. We saw, um, but just talk to us about that for a few minutes and perhaps your personal experience too.
I think Israelis are incredibly proud of what's going on right now. Very, very proud. Of course, there is worry. Of course, I mean, I don't know how many people here know, but I have a 1 year old who just turned 1 years old actually
Yes,
yesterday, 14th of June. And
yes,
so
Masanto.
running down, I'm not like Adam that has a mamad in his own house, and so he has to run a few meters. I actually have to go down 4 floors with my baby in order to run to the miklat. Miklat is the one for the whole building, for those who don't know. And so it is difficult. It's not easy, but it's something. It's, I think, a price that Israelis are definitely willing to pay because they understand what's on the line, and they definitely they understand what's on the line. And again, there are tough days ahead of us. There have been tough nights behind us. What happened in Batiam today, I'm sure some of you have seen the pictures, and if not, then you can. It's destruction, and it doesn't look good. And it's not things that we want to see in Israel, definitely. But we understood going in as a country that this is the price for our freedom. We, to be honest, thought that the price would be much higher, and so for now we're uh, again, any price is high when we're talking about human lives. But we thought it would be even higher. But there is mostly, you ask what the feeling is, mostly a sense of deep pride. We feel like Israel is leading the world. This is how we feel, and that's something that makes us very proud.
And I think we all could agree with you on that. Those of us outside of Israel, I think are right there with you with the pride, and I'm glad to hear spirits are up and are high. And another question we had for you here is we know there have been some successes in Iran for the Israeli Air Force. We know resounding successes, but question in my mind, to what's the percentage of, if I could phrase it that way, to what extent are we almost done? I mean, I don't know if you could put a number on it, but how far from the finish line here to just in the goal of destroying Iran's nuclear program, and how much of
We're
it is
not we're not done, and I don't want to put a number to it. We've there is one nuclear facility that hasn't been touched yet in Fordow. This is all unclassified information, so I can say it. But there are others that that have been destroyed. But we're not done. And again, I am worried a little bit of early euphoria when it comes to the successes that we've had, because wars are tough, wars can be long, and again, both on when it comes to the price we pay and on when it comes to the achievements that we need to achieve, it can take more time, and the price can be higher than what we've seen in the last few days. And so this does worry me. But I do have to say that uh, Israel has again the things that we've accomplished in the last few days set the stage in a way, set the chessboard in a way that makes it much easier for us to continue, because as I said in the beginning, we have full control of Iran's airspace. We can go wherever we want. We can do whatever we want uninterrupted. By the way, this was something that was meticulously planned for months. You remember the last attack that Iran attacked Israel, and then we responded. Not this past week. I'm talking about a few months ago. We
Mhm.
responded by removing their air defense,
Right.
and that's something which was at least that's what it was published, right? And that's something that is that is helping us today, and also the fact that Syria has not is not an Iranian ally anymore, and Lebanon is not an Iranian ally anymore, or that Hezbollah's influence on Lebanon is very, very limited, is something that also helps us. And so early on, the pieces on the chessboard were already much better than they would have been 2 years ago. But when we're talking about what we've accomplished now, it's something which really, the pieces on the chessboard are as optimal as possible for us to be able to do a great job and finish this job.
If I can follow up just with the question about Fordo, and first of all, is that the only of the major nuclear facilities that has not been touched yet? I don't know if that's something you could share with us, but I'll ask the question. And if you could talk to us about just the importance of that facility and kind of what the discussions, the dynamics around it. I know there's some discussion of perhaps U.S. involvement in bombing that particular facility. Just educate us a little bit on that particular place.
Okay, at the end of the day, when it comes to the details, I'm not going to get into the very details.
Fair enough.
I will say that there are challenges there that there weren't in other facilities, which is part of the reason why they're not being dealt with right now, and why American involvement would greatly help there. I want to say though that Israel's ethos has always been that we do the job ourselves. And so you can see it, like we didn't wait for America to say that they'll join us in the fight. We wanted, we did the fight, we took care of our business, and not only of our business, of the free world's business. We do appreciate America's support diplomatically and America's support in the defensive part of things, because they are helping us when it comes to defense. When it comes to the offensive parts, it's America's choice. There are things that are much easier for America to do than for Israel, because America has different tools than what we do. But at the end of the day, America is a sovereign country. I think it's in America's deepest interest for Iran not to be a problem anymore for the free world. I think it's also in America's interest to break the axis that has been built between Iran and its different allies, which are all, we can call it competitors of America, if not more. And so I think it's definitely is in America's interest, and there are things that they can do much more easily than what we can do. But at the end of the day, that's something that America will have to decide on its own.
Right. And what can you tell us about discussions with the United States in the last couple days or in the last, to the extent you're able to share? I think I think everyone on this call can agree. I think we all fall down on the same debate here. It's the same side of the debate here in the United States. I mean, we would argue that America should help Israel finish the job if that involvement is required. We know the Iranian terrorists killed more Americans than any other terrorist group before 9/11. We know a nuclear Iran would be a threat to the United States. And so I think if we were asked, we would say, yes, America should help Israel if that involvement is required. And but what could you share with us just about the most recent discussions and whether there's any deliberations on in government here?
Well,
To the extent you
obviously,
can share.
those types of the questions are very are not things that you closed discussions between different countries are not something that you discuss outside. I can say that America supports Israel, and so all of the talk that there was in the past few months about the fleeting relationship between America and Israel, it's been proven that it's just not true. Some of it was deception, and some of it was just, to be fully honest, the media trying to find things to talk about in order to attack both Trump and Israel and Netanyahu, because they tend to like doing that. But at the end of the day, it's been proven that it's completely false. And it's been and America and Israel are working together and are coordinated. And now, whether that means direct involvement or not is, again, it's something that first and foremost America will have to decide for itself.
Great. And we'll open it up to the audience here for questions in a moment. I have one final one. But just in the meantime, anyone who wants to ask a question, you can raise your hand. There's a react button at the bottom of Zoom. And you just, if you want to click the hand raise button, or you feel free to put questions in the chat. If you already asked your question, feel free to ask it again here in the chat. I've tried my best to summarize kind of the most common ones. And we'll open it up in a moment. I just one more question for you, and that is, we know the stated goal of this operation is to end the Iranian nuclear program, but there's been a lot of chatter, and even some of Prime Minister Netanyahu's rhetoric sounds like there may be some aspirations towards possibly causing regime change in Iran. I know we'd all obviously that would be a dream, but to what extent is that a perhaps a secondary goal of this operation here, and what are you seeing? Is it within the realm of possibility at this time, an overthrow of the Ayatollah?
So it's not a goal, a military goal of Israel right now, in the sense that the goals that were defined by Israel as the goals that the army has to bring forward and accomplish, it's not one of those goals. But I want to say this: I think that regime change is something that has to happen from the bottom up and not from the top down. And so I think it's for the Iranian people that are being persecuted by this regime to stand up and to ask for their freedom. Now, they've done it in the past. They weren't helped, and they also weren't in a situation like the situation there is today. Many of the people that were taken down by the IDF were people that were directly involved in the persecution of the Iranian people, and they're the people that were everything that happened in imprisoning women for showing too much of their hair, not to say what they do to gay people over there, and not to say all of the different things that for people that are just too much free thinkers in their eyes. And so we know that there is an opposition in Iran, not an official one, right? But they exist. We know that the regime isn't the most popular regime that there is. And so we do know that there is a possibility for the people of Iran to rise up. And if any person in Iran is hearing me, I just want to say this is your opportunity, because the regime is as weak as it can be. And it is the opportunity for you guys to rise up and take back your destiny. But I don't think it's right for it to be from the top down. I think it's right for the people down there to really see the opportunity and rise up.
And thank you for that. And so we have a few questions. I'll just ask everyone if you can keep your questions brief so we can fit in as many as we can. And Dan, and we have Dan Feder with a question. If you want to just unmute yourself, Dan, and just if I can just ask everyone
Thank
asking
you.
a question, introduce yourself, let us know where you are, please, and go ahead, Dan. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Daniel Fader, obviously strong supporter of Israel. I'm Israel Chai, so proud of what we've accomplished, and as usual, leading the free world in tackling the atrocities and the regimes that unfortunately they won't. But my question for you, Dan, is first of all, thank you for the presentation. Just to switch to Gaza, you said that Israel won't stop until there's complete success in Gaza, and I hate to look at the news and see, God forbid, one more boy who's killed. You know, we kill 100 terrorists. That's fantastic. We lose one boy, all of our hearts break. And I guess the question is, what does total victory mean? And to me, I would, just to make it quick, I would say, it would seem to me to say, we've accomplished so many goals in Gaza, we'll never really get rid of Hamas. It seems to me the perfect situation for Netanyahu to say, okay, we've accomplished what we want to. We have Hamas there. We'll never offer a two-state solution as long as Hamas is there. The world cannot force us to give them as long as they're there. And all along, he's wanted to play Hamas against the PA. And this seems to be the perfect situation, saying now we've accomplished what we wanted to. We'll make it the North Korea, South Korea line. Any missile comes out of Gaza, we'll go back in and destroy 1,000 houses again. Let them kill each other, and we'll hermetically seal the border, and that will be the end of it. So that's sort of what I'm trying to understand at this point. Where does Israel go from this point regarding Gaza, which is a thorn in our side and doesn't seem to be going away?
So I have to say that I respect and appreciate what you've described as your position, but I don't agree. I think that any situation in which Hamas is still in control of Gaza after what they did on October 7th is problematic in a huge way. And I'll say this. I think that after it's not only because they can rebuild, and it might take longer because now we have an eyes on them, and it might take 20 years and not 5 years, but they can rebuild and then do October 7th again. It's not only because of that. I think it's also because of the message it sends history, that you can do something like October 7th and survive it. And so there's no way that we can, as a nation, accept that Hamas is in control of Gaza on the day after. And that's why in the last few months, you've seen a little bit of a change of strategy when it comes to the military operation in Gaza. We used to have this strategy where we would defeat the Hamas battalions and then go out and then come back in and out as needed. But we understood, to be honest and not to sound so too haughty, but I understood that quite early on with some of my colleagues in the Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee. But it took longer for the leadership of the country, the military leadership of the country, to understand why that was so necessary. We have a new commander in chief, chief of staff of the IDF right now, who's more in line with the way we think. And we believe that what you need is to just basically, I know that the word occupy is not popular when it comes to Israel, but that's what we need to do. We need to occupy many, many places in Gaza, and then afterwards we'll need to decide what we do with them, right? It doesn't, occupying is a military strategy in order to ensure that Hamas is not the one in control. What you do afterwards with it is something that can be up to public discourse. I believe that every single part of the land of Israel is part of the land of Israel. That's my personal position, but it can be a part of public discourse in Israel what you do afterwards. But in order to defeat Hamas, you actually need to control the land in order to ensure that Hamas continuously control the land, in order to ensure that Hamas isn't the one controlling it. So that's what's happening today now. So yes, it's heartbreaking when there are soldiers, but they're falling in the defense of the state of Israel against what can be an existential threat. Because I really believe that if after October 7th Hamas continues ruling Gaza, gives a message to history which is so thwarted that it can become an existential threat. It tells terrorist groups all around the world, you can do October 7th, survive, regroup, and then do it again. And so I believe that this is what we need to do.
Okay, thank you for that. And we have a question from Isaac Batesh. Isaac, if you want to just tell us where you are, introduce yourself, and go ahead.
Thank you. My name's Isaac Patesh. I'm in Brooklyn. Really a good friend of Rafi. We're on a Met chat together, so I appreciate the opportunity for a question. Thank you, Dan, for all your info and for taking the time. My question, and I put on the chat, just fast forwarding a little bit. When the dust settles, right, and Iran's influence, obviously, it may be non-existent or very minimal at best. Looking at the Judea, Samaria, the Palestinians, they're still going to be there, right? Neutralized and other terrorist organizations in the West Bank or Judea, Samaria. How do you see that situation going forward? I see Israel as their new philosophy is no terrorists on their borders, and they're absolutely executing that philosophy and that doctrine, which the Palestinians, in Judea and Samaria. What do you see going forward?
When it comes to Judea and Samaria, I see only one option, and it's applying Israeli sovereignty to Judea and Samaria. I think that that's the only way to ensuring that Judea and Samaria will be 100% with Israel. I think that the fact that we're showing the world that we're unsure about the future of Judea and Samaria is emboldening terrorists. And by applying sovereignty to Judea and Samaria, you're showing that there's no doubt to it being a part of Israel, and that actually will put terrorism down, because when you show a strong hand and less doubt, then I think that there's less terrorism. I see that Andrea Spindle also speaks about Kedar's model of Emirates for in Judea and Samaria. I see in the chat. That's something that I actually very much believe in, and I think that there's an opportunity to put it in place in the next few months, where Palestinians Palestinian Arabs in Judea and Samaria can get a chance to decide if they want to be an emirate that reminds them of Dubai, or if they want to be something that looks more like what Beirut looks like, or Gaza looks like, or Tehran is starting to look like. And they'll have to make that decision. And if they decide that they prefer to remove their national ambitions and work as emirates, then I think that that's a path forward that is possible, but it has to come hand in hand with applying sovereignty, which is one of the next moves that Israel has to do with.
And thank you very much for that. And I think we'll have time for one more question here. If we can ask Steve Feldman to go ahead. Go ahead, Steve.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation, Dan, and I wish a refuah shlema for all who are injured and Hashem's protection for all of Israel. Dan, you, as Alan mentioned, you know North America as well as anybody, and you know our media. What three salient points do you suggest each of us try and get out to people who are the targets of anti-Jewish, anti-Israel propaganda to make them really understand the necessity for what Israel had to do with this preemptive strike?
So the first thing is technical, and it's the fact that many people will try to say that this is an illegal move by Israel that started a war. But anyone that understands international law understands that when there's a country that actively threatens another country with destruction and prepares its weaponry and tries to get an atomic bomb, etc., etc., then that the country doesn't have an obligation to wait for the button to be pushed. It's just like if we take an example of not international law, but regular criminal law. You don't have to wait for a criminal to actually kill someone in order to stop him. If you find the preparations and the plan and everything, then you can put him in jail for all of these things. And so this is the first point. The second point would say making it clear that Iran is not just Israel's problem, but it's the problem of all of the free world, and that Israel is fighting the fight of all of the free world. And the easy part of making this argument is that it's clearly true. I mean, when Iran says that death to America, death to Israel, and that America is the great Satan, it's not something that Israelis invent, and it's not a Zionist conspiracy. It's something that they say very clearly all the time. And so it's a point that's very easy to be made. And I think that actually some people in America that have lately on the right been less happy with the idea of America being involved in conflicts all around the world should see Israel as the perfect ally, because look, we're actually doing America's job. To be honest, we're dealing with America's enemies, and so we're like the perfect ally. We didn't ask America to fight our fight. If they want, they're invited. As I said, there's things that are easier for them to do than for us, but we didn't ask for them to do it. We took initiative and did it on our own. So that's like the perfect ally, even for those people that are more isolationist.
Isolationist.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I still have my Canadian French accent, so some words are hard to say. Now, the third thing I would say is something that I repeated over and over again, and that this is not a fight against the Iranian people. I think Iranian civilization is one of the more beautiful ones that there are around the world. But it's been hijacked by a group of extremists that call themselves the Islamic Revolution, and they're the ones holding hostage the Iranian civilization and the Iranian people. And we're actually doing things in a very pinpointed way, in a very direct way, hurting only those people that are part of the regime. And that regime is a problem even for the Iranian people. And so the Iranian people are actually better served by what we're doing. So those are the 3 points that I would make.
Thank you, Dan and Alan. I believe Mort Klein has a question also before you end this. Thank you, Dan.
Yes, and yes, before we do wrap up, I do want to turn over to Mort Klein to give us a few words, and we'll go back to you, MK Luz, to wrap this up. Final thoughts. Go ahead, Mort.
Well, thank you, MK Dan Illouz. First of all, I want to say the 1,200 sacred souls who gave their lives during these atrocities of October 7th, it was not in vain. Because of this, we have destroyed Hamas, Hezbollah on the verge of destroying Iran and their nukes. Their lives were not given in vain. I want that to be understood as big as a nightmare as it was and is. And my question is, even this morning, Donald Trump is proclaiming there's a deal on the way between Israel and Iran to stop this war, that Saudi Arabia and others want us to stop this war. There is going to be a deal, he says. We're going to have a deal. A deal I believe would be a nightmare. It will be violated. The war is not over. There should be no deal until the mullahs are destroyed and the nukes are destroyed. Do you feel pressure in Israel that Trump is pushing Israel to make a deal before the time for such a deal?
So I have to say very honestly, I think that right now there is zero pressure. And those are statements that are made to the international community for whatever reason that he finds it right. But it doesn't translate into actual pressure. But that doesn't mean that it's not coming. Israel understands. I mean, we've seen it in Gaza in a very clear way. On October 7th, the whole world was with us. On October 10th, it became 95%. And as time went on, then now we basically have very few friends around the world that are still.
Nope. Sorry for the.
Sorry.
How you were
Did I-
muted. Go ahead.
Did you not hear anything from the beginning?
No, just the last 5 seconds or so. We somehow.
Okay, so I said that Gaza is a very good example of how the public support, international support, deteriorated with time. At the beginning, everyone was with us, but as time went on, it started deteriorating, and now we only have basically America, Argentina, Panama, and I can't really think of other countries that are strongly with us. And so we understand that there's a timeline that we need in order to accomplish everything that we need to accomplish. And so you asked about pressure. Right now, we don't feel the pressure. We feel those are more statements that aren't translated into pressure. But that doesn't mean that it won't come at some point. And we do believe that we need to do the work quickly, efficiently, in order for it to happen as quickly as possible and for us to get to all our goals as quickly as possible. I agree with you, though, that a deal definitely at this point, but even at at a later point, I don't have any trust in the Iranian regime, and so it would be highly problematic.
If I can ask you just a final question, I mean, everyone on this call is a leader, and you know certainly the everyone involved in ZOA and American Friends of Likud are very engaged group, and I know for our audience with the Hasbara Fellowships, we have campus leaders on 80 plus campuses. What should we be? What's Israel's message right now? If there's one thing we should be saying to our constituencies, to our social media followings, what should it be right now?
So again, I think the 3 points that I said and repeated many times are the 3 points that I would focus on. One is that Israel has a right to defend itself, and this war is a war which defended itself against a real threat, a real present and imminent threat. The second is that Israel is fighting the fight of the free world, and again, with all of the proofs of that, not just as a slogan, but as an actual thing. And the third thing is that we're not fighting the Iranian people, we're fighting this extremist regime and actually helping the Iranian people and giving them an opportunity to take back their destiny.
And thank you very much. Is there any, we'll give you just the final word here. Is there anything else you want to add to everyone?
I just want to thank really again everyone for being on this call, everyone for the support. I do want to say, and maybe this is a little pessimistic sounding, but there are tough days ahead. It's not all gonna be easy, and so there are tough days ahead of us. And so the support that you've shown all the time is the support that we'll need, both morally and also with everything that you guys know how to do, whether it's financially or whether it's defending us through the media and the political realm and all of the different places, campuses, and all of the different places where you guys do that. And so thank you for the support, and we'll need it moving forward.
Thank you very much. We look forward to speaking to you again. Be safe. All the best to you, to your son personally, and we're all of our prayers and thoughts are with the people of Israel.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.